So with the goal to be done in a timely fashion, we're just going to jump in and just get this part modeled. I should have it displayed on screen so you guys have an idea of what I'm going for. And so with that, let's do the usual. Let's press X and delete our cube. Let's Shift A and add a cylinder, 32 rounds, except this time I'm going to reduce it. Let's do 24. You know, I've been solving a lot of 32 round cylinders, and let me tell you, you really feel it in your abdominal area. So we'll just duplicate these cylinders, mirror to the other side, maybe using the generic mirror under Alt X. And let's grab this top face and bring it down, creating something like that. And so basically we want a shape to encompass this, and so usually I would use 2 shape, but I feel like there's this crazy bug happening with Exact right now that is terribly brutal, and I just don't want to experience it. I actually uploaded that video yesterday that showed me in that scenario. That scenario was terrible. Like pretty much the biggest nightmare scenario you could experience with a Boolean is having your mesh be incompletely assembled and you not notice it, especially when you're already working the form and finalizing other aspects. I'm going to scale this out just for stylistic purposes. Maybe not do that. If we don't do that, it'll be super easy. If we scale it out, it'll be hard. So maybe we should actually be a little accurate to the image. I was about to make an artistic call, but like I said, no one should take this part and stick it on their Yamaha. So even though I'm using subdivision to kind of block things in, we're just going to clean the mesh to get things back to simplicity, and of course apply our scale before we Control B bevel. I was actually going to upload a video today just talking about the approaches I have with bevel, but it isn't ready yet. So instead, in my goal to keep this particular event going that I haven't even discussed yet, that's already in progress, gotta keep uploading content. So just really just laying in the broad strokes right now. I mean, like I said, no one should try to put this part on their bicycle or wherever this thing goes, you know. Obviously, I'm being facetious, but definitely not for public consumption. So, you know, don't be coming at me, Yamaha. I'm just admiring it on a design level, not so much on a I need to make this part and put it on my bike. So I've actually been playing a lot with destructive extrude, where you press Alt E and you just choose extrude manifold. This thing is awesome. You know, I never talk about it enough, but there's a lot of opportunities that come up for it where it really shows its prowess. Let's also get the viewport looking a little better. And as I look at the picture, I see that there's 2 different sides, and there's actually elements of both sides that look cool to me. So I'm just thinking about, what do I truly want to take? You know, how big of a battle do I want to fight today? So let's grab this face, Control Plus to grow it. Let's not. We just hide that. And I'm just being random, kind of going off the script here, but really in this territory, there's not a lot of proper workflows in place to exhibit how one should go about doing this, except, you know, block it in, work your way up on the details. Like, I've actually been working on some really challenging parts in my personal work right this moment, and it's a fun time, let me tell you. Like, there are some painful shapes out there, and if I can do them, anyone can do them. That's the way I see it. And also, you know, if anyone else does it, I also feel that it's possibly doable, you know, because it's right there, it's right in front of you. So really just kind of looking at this, evaluating how far I want to go with this, and that will at least give me enough room for me to cut in a circle right here. And let's also lower this down to 24 by expanding this area and just typing in 24. because we don't want a whole bunch of smoke tonight. You know, we want to just try to, I don't know what's going on the other side. We're just going to make something up. Like I said, I don't care about this part. We're just having fun with it. And so with this cylinder, we're probably going to have to start beveling this early. How many segments are we going to give it? You know, maybe 4 for this piece. You know, we're also going to need to bevel it. Let's stick with our same rule of 4, but let's also apply our scale first. You know, I could just tell when the scale's off, but you should be vigilant that if your bevel's not looking right, that your scale is off. So let's go ahead and perform a join by just pressing J, creating this cylinder, and let's just pretend there's a big hole in here. I mean, I don't know, let's assume it's maybe about that thick looking at the picture. I'm really over analyzing. My goal is to not analyze things so closely, because you know, sometimes it results in losing a bit of time that I feel could be better spent. So I just merged all of the stuff using exact booleans. So let's go inside and see what kind of howdy doody just got opened on us. So that piece is there, and it's there. We see that it's not completely sealed up, so let's try putting a weld on. And for some reason we put a weld and the mesh gets weirder. Let's just make subtle mouse movements. Let's just remove the weld. So there's like this bug with, also this is a circle cutting all the way through, so that piece is correct. Everything's correct, and you're probably like, why is this guy looking at his mesh from the inside? I'm telling you, if you have these interior faces, it is a nightmare earth that you may not be able to escape from. So you just don't want that to happen. Just telling you. Visual geometry to mesh. I'm going to press Alt X, and we're going to bisect mod, and let's go ahead and save this. We'll just call this topo solve underscore part, and really topo solve underscore part is my first iteration. All right, let's roll with it, guys. First time solving a part. All right. So we got a whole lot of how you doing there happening here. You know, we're gonna have to really sort that out, and so I'm just having fun. Really, I've been doing this so much over the last couple of days that I've realized that, you know, we're like at overkill levels on these tools. But I mean, there's still more work to be done, but you know, they do the job that they are set out to do, which is make my life easier. You know, I don't use them for 100% of every single task, because you could press Control T and Alt J sometimes, and just Control T and Alt J, just, I mean, come on. The goal of all these videos is to show you guys that, you know, Blender is just fantastic. But I suppose it's an acquired taste to like topology. You know, you got to get addicted to winning, I guess, first. You got to win a couple of times and not have a bunch of nasty poles staring you right in the face. But I'm telling you, with a little bit of practice, get better every time. You know, you may not win the first time, but eventually, jackpot. And I've been showing some really loose solutions in these videos. Like, you know, I could be a lot more strict, but also these videos would be like 2 hours, and I know you guys aren't even watching all of the videos that are being made now. So I'm debating on, you know, continuing the event, but, you know, just catching up with you guys at the end. But we'll see. But definitely want to spend this month kind of getting in touch with SupD and ensuring that it connects well, you know, with the tools in the workflow. You know, of course, I'm always pondering the goals of optimization, but, you know, sometimes I I probably sound like a jerk when I tell people, hey, you gotta get in here and do this. You gotta get in and solve like nasty end guns and turn them into happy endings. You know, but it truly does build character. I mean, especially with such sparse geo. I mean, we could have 32 rounded this cylinder and the solution could have been even simpler. And because of what I'm looking at with it being so sparse, because we leveled down this time, I actually got to think a little bit simpler, you know, like, that's the thing about this darn topology is you got to just, sometimes the simplest approach is the best one. Like, I've been just letting junctions be handled by a couple of tries and diamond quads. Man, it's unreal. I'm like, you know, this is what they should write in the documentation about this SOP. You know, because nobody ever mentions those sort of things. Like, for example, I want to bevel this edge, right? I want to bevel space, also close Boxcutter for a moment. And let's get back to select by pressing W. But yeah, I want to bevel this edge, right? All right, actually, this one's going to work out. I was going to start talking about how we have to skate up the wall by using guidance edges, but it looks like Blender made a fool of me. But right here, this is going to cause a skewed result, so we definitely want to take this edge and relieve its tension like so. And let's look at this side as well. And so maybe something like that. You know, my strategy with all these parts is to basically protect the perimeter. In fact, for this one, we're going to use a loop cut, and I'm going to press I to inset. I get a lot of comments of people asking, why don't I use inset? And it's because inset creates these internal redirects at the end of everything. And God, I hate that. I mean, you have to solve them, or else if you ignore them, you've created like nasty corners in like all of your areas. I don't know, I'm probably talking over my head, but just my view of insets as a subdivision conversion aspect. But yeah, definitely I'm beginning to see the sport of such an activity. I'm not saying I would want to do it every darn day, but I'm a bit of an anomaly whenever it comes to 3D program usage, as anyone who follows me on Twitter can probably tell. Like lately, I've actually just been waking up, grinding on this stuff day in, day out, and doing a whole bunch of practices in between these videos and learning so much. Just grinding on the same topic. So, you know, typically content is me always talking about, well, aiming to talk about design and making stuff look cool, but whenever it comes to this sort of workflow, all you can really talk about is topology. It's like talking about a 401k or it's just boring, but it's essential. I mean, it's boring probably to most, but to me, I definitely find it interesting. There's also been some people who's been, you know, sending me other people's topology, you know, as examples, which is also very interesting. It's always nice to see alternative solutions that are being utilized. It gives me ideas for, you know, how, maybe in the worst way, gives me ideas for how little I can get away with it. So for this, I could guarantee you that if we grab this and we bevel it, it's going to be a bevel that's like this, which is like a window blind. So that's not going to work out. Let's just cut, and we'll just end it at the nearest edge. And let's try it again, and we get something like that. And we only want to push in about that far, but of course we've done some damage in this area, so we're going to have to regain the trust of the neighboring geometry because it's very scared right now. So I'm actually kind of scared of the decisions we made. You know, some of these decisions are a little harsh. I think we destroyed the community center. Let's undo this immensely. And let's try this maneuver again. Also, there's a little micro edge right there. That edge can get out of here. Also, we see that we are so close to this edge. There's no room. There's no room for us to get mercy. It's going to show us no quarter. So that means we need to just kind of really clean this area up. But that's what I'm saying. There's some tight cases that make a man out of you. Like this one. You know, even if you're a woman, it'll make you into a man. May not even want that, but you know, just got a Randy Savage on some geometry. Also, what's with all these doubles? We were talking about Ben Randy Savage, and there's a really hard decision to make here. We could either adhere and keep this flow, this micro flow, which is just insanity. Also add another one, which is further insanity. You know what? We're living on the edge. We have this chance for a flow, even though it's microscopic. We won't talk to anyone about that. You know, don't tell anyone I made that microscopic flow. And let's make these two pieces have a connection. You know, by now, if you've been watching these videos, you know that my favorite keys for this process is K and J. You know, selecting 2 points and pressing K and using, you know, just classic Blender knife tool. I mean, we also have one inside of select tool, but you just can't compare with the one that's in Blender. And also the one that we have is a little bit more unique. I feel that we could probably do a whole nother revisit on the whole topic, but I'm trying to spare everyone at the moment. Let's grab these two, make a connection, and we could either add a whole bunch of loops to fulfill this, or we can... Do we even need this many edges to finish this? You know, I'm venturing to guess no. Here's something else I've also been doing a lot of lately. Just grabbing every edge and just getting rid of it. Every other edge, you know, we could be using checker select for this, but let's just get rid of every other edge. We'll re-add this edge, reform the connection, and just really simplify this. Just really make subdivision work for us, which is something I should probably begin talking about more. Because whenever it comes to circles, I will simplify a circle to be just 4 points and call it a day and go to sleep at night. But these 32 rounders, I'm telling you, 32 rounds is an easy solve. And it's the default in Boxcutter, so all these videos I've been aiming to show how, you know, we just get in, play with the defaults, and create these shapes and convert them into these sub D shapes. You know, a little bit of work involved, but that is Blender, and there's no getting around it. I mean, there is getting around it. Ending at the level of a concept, you're completely around it. But if you're trying to get to basically a subdivision level model, first of all, why are you using booleans? But also, if you are using booleans, because, you know, booleans are definitely assistive as a modeling medium. So I mean, that's what I feel like I specialize in nowadays, is boolean style modeling, where, you know, normally you would look at a part and just think about how you would block it in with a cube and subdivide it and add more detail and subdivide and add more detail. Well, I mean, instead we could just take a cube, boolean a cube, really refine that cube to a final level, and if we choose so, you know, always, you know, if it's the choice of the geometry, we don't want any blizzard type issues happening. But if it needs it, it can go to geo. It could go to final level geo, like what we're talking about here. But I mean, one of the things I haven't really emphasized in the videos is that this is a finality of this mesh. You know, once you start going through this process, like if you were a client and talking about changes, I'm gonna respond to that email. I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to talk about that next time, man. Next time. No, I'm kidding, but seriously, there's a finality to this entire process, so it's important to understand that. But it's so fun to get in and actually experiment with the conceptualization process, which is what we focus on. I mean, if you look at our documentation, like the first page is like, our goal is to make modeling focused around being more entertaining, but also something emphasizing on the design aspect of working. So even though we have began working on workflows to really expand on this aspect of Blender, it really doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme, because in the end you should definitely know these particular skills that I'm demonstrating, like the ability to take a mesh and convert it into whatever medium is required to survive to the end of the day. And you know, if you take anything away from these videos, is that, you know, issues are definitely going to happen, but you gotta just get in and deal with it. You can't just, well, this is a bad, you know, what I hear a lot from people is, well, this is a bad version of Blender, so I'm gonna just wait till next time. What the hell are you talking about? You better get in there, man. But you know, that's just me. I'm obsessive. Anyways, we are working on such a micro level, but we're gonna make this work. And also, I really need this boundary loop, so if I don't have it, it's just gonna be weird, even though we also probably need a little bit additional perimeter geo just to keep everything quadding along. But really, at some point, we're also going to need to trim this with a boundary loop, which we could always do with inset very easily. So what do we want to do at this point? Well, if I would have uploaded the bevel video on time, you would know that this is where I would press Control B in order to basically round it out. But we need to probably unsully the bevel, but I don't even feel like doing that. That's the thing about sullying the bevel, is once it's sullied, I don't even feel like it. This is a mess, so we should give this circle a better solve. So I'm going to just hide, only reveal just this area, and we're going to do something drastic like that. And let's just get these loops out of here, and we'll talk about that later. And what we want is a flow. So that's probably the easiest way to get the flow going exactly the way that we aim to deal with it. But now we have to solve and reduce a couple of areas. So there's always going to be one area whenever you inset that's just going to say, well, F what you just did to me. And this one is probably going to be redirected, but why do we even have this one? Got to be a harsh auditor with your own geo. And also, points are always going to be laying on top of each other. I just don't know. It's something with the way I work. Just points are always laying on top of each other, so watch yourself out there. Let's select these two, merge at last. So now we've terminated that negative growth, and we probably want to do the same here, where basically that ends like so. So do we even need a trim happening in this area that we're going to end up having to reinforce in this area that probably isn't even going to flow that good, but might as well, right? We should control all corners, right? That's the promise of MX's perimeter protection. So anyways, let's connect these to their nearest mates, even though it's going to start getting real weird, start mismatching the family tree here. And we could stand to add an additional loop there. We'll use it later, I promise. You know what? We'll add 2 because I need to. And we'll end it like so. And I did it wrong, because we want to put a loop in the middle in order to connect this area, because that's just easy and right in front of us. So we're probably gonna have to do something like that. And we could do that and make that a diamond quad and make that a triangle, but where did we go wrong? Let's just get rid of it then. So you know what? Maybe I just need one loop. I will make it work with one loop. Let's save the file because we haven't saved in a while. The Blender gods will always test you. It's like if you're in college, you know, they have a game where they hit you in the genitals to check you, right? Blender will check you by basically taking away your entire file and not auto-saving it. It's the craziest prank. It's like being stripped naked and thrown outside in a fraternity. So let's continue on with this, and I'm going to press. I'm trying to grab this point, but this point hasn't hit an edge underneath. You know, like I said, there's always spies hiding, but I am getting so good at catching them because it's just weird. It's like, hey, something's weird with the way things are supposed to behave. And so we're about 26 minutes in. Haven't had to talk about anything serious yet, like religion. Just kidding. So let's grab this, and one of two things is going to happen. It's going to work out, and we're just going to get spread on both sides of the bread, or we are not. You know what? I blame this one. Yeah, I blame that one. So let's try it again. But we do want to grab all, and let's roll it. So something like that. And we're really playing a dangerous game. I could be setting myself up for cases where I need a whole lot of mesh machine flatten, but or the flatten that we made. But either way, I always just slide things around and happen to just avoid these issues that come up. But we're just adding points with Control R and sliding them around. We'll just make these into quads and really end this very awkward mesh situation that we've been in over here. And as we solve and talk, this mesh is just evaporating. It's over. Like, this video is over. It's about to be looking crispy in just a moment. So let's add a loop. And we're already snapping a vertex, so I can just bring this up here. Let's do it again. Connection and connection. I wish I could just say it and it did it. Make the connection, and now things are about to get questionable. But let's give it some answers. Sometimes the easiest solution is the most linear. Not saying that I'm using the smartest solutions in these cases, but I am going to be done momentarily. Like so. Quad, quad, you know, not the prettiest quad next to a perimeter loop, but what can you do? Well, I mean, you could always perfect it, but who has time for that? So this area is like a questionable. We could really terminate it by merging all these areas, but you know, how do we want to do this? So I'm going to grab this connection, 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 and here we get to make some hard choices. That's a quad, and we can run away from this. I mean, this is just a flat area, so really we'll make it. And let's Control S, look at what we have, and the bottom remains an unsolved mystery. You know, call William Shatner. And I'm just going to select this, Control, and I've been trying to use machine select, and that thing's just been driving me nuts. So don't even be giving me that in the comments. you animals. So what I do want to do is basically dissolve these edges and bring that back a little bit. I was a little overzealous because we do want to protect this parameter, and we're just rolling with the solid bevel, you know, just the soliest bevel you've ever seen, but it's working. Like, we could be doing a lot with the bottom, but we definitely want to keep this video timely so that everyone can get to bed at a satisfactory hour. Alright, alright, alright. So we gotta really bring a party down here. But we got such a big party that's coming that I don't even know if I want that party to come down here. For example, I'm going to just add this loop, but select all the way across to here. And we're just going to bring that down to maybe here. And we see that we need to make a connection for like a party of like 50. So I'm willing to give it that many loops on this side and that many loops on that side. And that's it. That's all that I'm willing to do. And I will give this a loop, and we will grab our second army and we will bring it up, because this is a big flat area. All that's going to be in here is like a crease line probably. So nearest connections is the name of the game. And in the name of quads, let's quad it up. And let's see if we get lucky. We might be getting lucky here. We might be looking at this thinking he's not going to get lucky, and I totally got lucky. Not the greatest luck, but we survived. So I'm going to take advantage of this by drawing another knife cut just across, just to force a flow. You know me, I just gotta force a flow. And let's also resharpen this, which will unmark what I had and just recalculate that. So now we're looking at our final result. However, I do want to try to model, you know, a bit more of it just to have some fun. For example, we could press I, but I'll press B in order to bring it in. And let's just, actually, let's try this again. I, E, Shift tilde, let's deselect these two. Bevel with our solid bevel. Anyone in the audience asking what's a solid bevel, there's a whole playlist about it. It's the best I could do. So maybe something like that to look a little bit like the image. And really, when it comes to reinforcing this edge, just giving it weak reinforcement will be enough to look like the image roughly, which is kind of what I'm going for. Let's press Alt V, and this is what our wireframe looks like. So let's see how bad I did. Polygon debug. Oh geez. Okay, so it's always good to check sometimes. Triangles. Let's see, is that the worst? Maybe a little bit. Let's see, I'll place a loop and make a connection here. Allow me to quad that out. This area, doesn't matter, no. This area is a humongous n-gon. So let's just clean that up. We have this flow that's happening, and we never made its connection on the other side. So what I want to do is subdivide to cause an early termination. And then from here, we can just jump this area and make some hard decisions, which not too hard. I am going to merge these two at last. And I am going to let that live today. You know, it's just a try. Tries can live. N-gons solve way worse. So you might wonder why I am so vigilant in solving n-gons, because there's no n-gon solution that you will ever find acceptable. As far as like Blender automatically solving it with a subdivision modifier, it will look like the hottest of garbage. And we could just terminate that into a try. We could even put a loop in between, but it looks like they're not even on the same row. I guess we could grab this edge. Never mind. We're getting weird now. We're just getting rid of n-gons. And I don't even know what. Okay, I see. Let's turn off polygon debug. And we see that, you know, it's just a mess in here. Besides our inaccurate sharpening. But we're just going to need to force some connections and then reevaluate what we have going on at the bottom, because it's just not going to work. Okay, and the bottom remains undefined, so where's this edge go? This edge goes all the way up to there. I'm going to terminate early there, which will just allow us to add it, or we turn into a try there, and then just have a loop collide with it, which would actually do for this situation, but we'll just turn that into a try. But let's turn it into a try this way, just since that's on a flatter surface. And now let's have some fun with this bottom, which a big flat bottom with so many points in it would actually make for an interesting solve. Like, I was actually playing with a solution for this earlier when I was which I used grid cut. So let's do only faces, and let's select this, and let's turn on statistics. We got 32. Let's see what a grid fill looks like. It's gonna look whack. Oh god. All right, so we have some almost, like that actually works. I mean, what are we going for here? We just want a solution that works. We could even protect this whole area from the possibility that we made bad decisions, but really I just see some areas that could use a little bit of relaxation, and it will suffice. You know, beggars can't be choosers. Blender just gave me that solution, so we might be looking at the end of this. Let's save it, and let's take a look at our polygons again. So we need to connect this bottom pole to our pyramid scheme. Maybe connect this one as well, allowing us to terminate like so. Thought that was 4 points. It was not. So we turn that into a try, that into a try. We end that whole discussion of tries. So that's the thing about a try. A try, you just give it another quad, or you give it another edge, and it'll be fine. I'm just adding edges and turning those tries into quads. So they're always just a solution. Now, the thing about polygon debug is it almost makes you feel like it's getting in the way visually sometimes. Like, I've been really giving it a deep ponder. And what I want to do is dissolve that, so then I can dissolve that. And how do we want to solve this? Well, I am just going to bring these two in. Dissolve, and we could just leave it as a try. It's not the end of the world. Let's actually look for any additional n-gons just to double check, make sure that we made all of our connections happy. That's one good thing about Polygon Debug, because it will let you know when you have some just satanic geometry, which sometimes isn't always visible. Like, I also want to be able to see what's going on as far as interiors go, but anyways, we are looking pretty good. So I'm going to select everything and unmark it, save the file, turn off dots because I'm superstitious now, and let's press Alt V and look at our wireframe. So this is basically our result now of going through that somewhat brief modeling process. I mean, we've only been at this like 40 minutes, so with that we can wrap this up. In fact, if we press Alt V, we can look at the wireframe, which shows our solutions. We can also add a loop here, add a loop to kind of quarantine this bad area, which I feel there's too many loops in use for this particular area at the bottom. So something like that maybe will help simplify it. And we never want to see it in edit mode. I'm telling you, if you look at your subdivision in edit mode, it's just lying to your eyes. So for me to be able to properly evaluate this geometry, I can't be messing around on that note. And just thinking about how I want to go about this, like, I feel like we probably have enough geometry to actually come up with a proper solution. But really, at this point, I feel we are close to the conclusion. So those two now quadded. This area can be redefined. We'll just make these connections. Alright, so now we're looking at something a little more acceptable. It's a flat face anyways. I don't know why I'm so nice to flat faces sometimes, but we'll just let that be. And I do want to give this a little bit of reinforcement, and let's also shift this in, give this a secondary loop, allowing us to get something like that. And we see that for our transitions, we weren't being terribly mistreated. However, look at this. With that quad there, or this diamond, we see that it was a little bit more cruel to us in the transition, but its removal allows just, I don't know, sub D to just be sub D. There's, you know, everyone always hates on sub D, but if there's something sub D is good at, it's that. Also, I am not going to ask any questions about that. And let's just take a look at our result. And just like that, we were able to quickly get in and perform a subdivision result on this. So now we're on bonus time. So this is extra. You could truly get out of here at this point, but we're just gonna bring in a cylinder. I don't even know how many spans the cylinder has, but and I'm just looking at the top part of this, thinking about how I would go about doing it. Is that straight? Let's mirror it to the other side. Extrude this up. And from here, I'm just going to place a point in the center. And I don't think circle's capable of, oh God. So you could make a circle from a single point. All right, that's great. Let's extrude it up. And let's extrude that. It's so hard to tell what these shapes are on things. That's why I hate references. All right, and ES, E, Shift tilde, and we want to apply to scale. So that way we can just bevel it with one segment. And this is basically what we're looking at. So Now I'm just going to perform a box cut, giving me that, which is a little bit more accurate to the image. And now I can just mirror that to the other side, and that'll be a little bit more entertaining for us today. I never try to make these situations like completely perfect when it comes to planning. In fact, you could almost say that I gave myself an advantage making that cut, because I could see what the result is going to be as a result of us doing that. But let's just get into it. So I'm going to apply all the geo, and we're going to save the file, because every time I'm moving fast and I'm confident, Blender just pulls my pants down and slaps me in the face, and it throws me out naked in front of the entire fraternity. These things didn't happen to me. I'm just being funny, but Blender, I'm telling you, is such a prankster. And in this video, I didn't run into any like issues that make me want to run away from my computer, but I have a policy about never letting my computer defeat me. So, when situations arise, I'm like forced to sit there and sort it out. Also, why am I solving this? Let's simplify this quickly. There we go. Alright, SX0, GX, snap to this, and we can now call that complete. And really, here we're going to have to make a hard decision. If we break the count on the cylinder, we're going to have to pay. But lately, I've been experimenting with doing that. Sometimes I could get away with it. I mean, this is a really small piece. And like I said, don't put this on your Yamaha speed bicycle. Just don't. This isn't a Yamaha certified part that I'm modeling. I mean, maybe the thing I'm referencing is, but the picture I'm making certainly is not. So maybe something like that. And what do we want to do here? We just want to turn it into that. And now we've diamond quadded it, redirecting it, and that will have to do. So what about this area? Well, protect the perimeter. What about this area? Let's protect the interior perimeter with an inset. And we're going to need to write the flow that we want to be preserved to the surface in order to ensure that it will be protected. Because you just can't expect Blender to deal with it for you. You gotta just help it along. In fact, all of the work I do, I feel is just me helping its solution for either subdivision or bevel or whatever. I'm just there helping its solution along. Because, I mean, it can solve for you. And that results in everything that I get sent. And why did that happen? Emails and messages. So with these selected, I'm also going to space this out. And I'm just going to simplify this so that we can give it enough loops. I didn't plan for all the intense geometry we would be adding. Also when it comes to this process, another thing I don't mention a lot about is how much planning you have to do in your head of knowing what the result's going to be at the end. Because you could be doing all this stuff on faith without any idea of what the result's going to be, and you end up with basically a subdivision nightmare. But I've been subdividing stuff so long that I just see what it's going to be. I'm like, I could see subdivision, throwing a howdy ho at that. I mean, all of this is in a big flat area. I seriously gotta stop obsessing with flat areas. And we want to give this a degree of rounding, maybe. And how do you think I did? Just kidding. Hey, how do you think I did? I didn't even fill this area in. Sorry. However, before that, let's just slap a triangulate on it so it survives being subdivided. And let's actually look at what's being subdivided will look like on this. So first of all, there's not a flow happening here. But if we Alt-V wireframe and we get out of it and we look at it, the knock that you would expect to see on the surface isn't so bad. If you wanted to be a topo inward, we could basically look at a matcap view, and the hit isn't as bad. Like, I don't know, I've just been making decisions with geometry. Like, is the hit worth it? Is it worth it? Because if it's worth it, if I could get away with it, I mean, I might as well try it. Might as well put some questionable geo there. What are they gonna do? Take away my topology card? They're gonna go out and tell people I'm a topology phony. I don't know, but you know, I feel that the rules are just a little too strict. So I mean, in my work, I aim to bend them, but I also want to kind of push the limits of what I'm able to do. So continuing on, this flow is incomplete. And now we have flows happening all along this. And how do you think I did as far as n-gons and tries? Polygon, oh. I'm telling you, Polygon Debug will humble you. Not maybe you, the viewer, but it humbles me. Like, I thought I was about to say, oh, look at me, perfect. Perfect score. But no, not a perfect score. A perfect fail. Let's make sure neither of these are showing in edit mode. Alright, and now let's see how this looks. Still an n-gon here. Alright, someone's lying. Polygon debug is so important, but it's also important that this thing is not so darn visible. Like, this thing is like a clan hood on this mesh. I can't see a dang thing. So I'm gonna have to see what can be done about that. We were already talking about making like some subdivided form of it that would be able to display, you know, conceptually. However, you know, anytime we begin pushing things forward, it also increases the viability of crashes, so it's a dangerous game. I'm just solving, you know, triangles, you just hit them with a loop. I'm serious, you hit them with a loop. That's why topology is complicated, because you're redirecting things to hit triangles to turn them back into quads, which form redirects, which gives you strange flows. It gets super autistic, but there we're actually now looking at something a little bit better, and let's just bring it down. We probably could have like a cylinder in the middle to go down it, but I'm over obsessing with this in like a big way. I mean, and on top of that, I can't even end this video without putting some threads on this thing. So I'm just going to split this piece out into its own piece. Maybe something like that. And let's just turn off subdivision. And let's also turn off mirror. And where's our origin? Our origin is right there. This means that we can hit it with a screw. And just moving a mouse. And let's just go to our modifier and get real intimate with our settings. So we could be making this a connective surface, which is really obsessive level. Just make it a proper screw and just completely replace the original one. You know, and let's see how we would do that actually. Let's just press Control A, Visual Geometry to Mesh. Where is the top? The top is about here. I'm just thinking of what would be the easiest way to clear the top of this off. I'm going to use this, press V, rely on the ability of selection to just select the other half and delete it, and we could call it a day. And so in order for this to truly work, we're probably going to need to another thing is I forgot to get rid of that area. We should have got rid of that to begin with. So how are we going to make this solid? Well, let's just take it for a ride using the power of F2. Just holding F. F to pay respects. Alright, let's delete that. Let's fill that. And so this is what we're looking at so far. And how can we finish this but get the desired result? I'm just going to press F, right click because I never configured it for my particular behavior, which is to not have to right click to cancel it, but this actually comes in handy whenever you're extending in a general way, but probably overkill for this. I'm going to press K, C, Z to cut all the way through, press V to rip, Control L, we got the opposite side, so that means we press Control I, and we can just press F to fill this in. And I know this isn't the most perfect work, but I've also so little experience in solidifying screws, actually, come to think of it. We do the same thing here, V, Control L. We use select boundary to select the hole, which actually results in us getting a very short screw. So I gotta think about this. How obsessive do we need to get with this screw? Well, at this point, we're going to be probably replacing this screw that we have on top already, if not fusing into it. So we could just press P and separate that and go in local mode and really just ponder what we want to do here. We could just do something like that, which would also allow us to really call it a day on this. So I took a brief moment to analyze what was going on with exactly how I wanted to get the screw put together, and this isn't even the intended result. So if we press X and delete this, I can press Control V, and this is actually the intended result. So something a little bit more obsessive, but I really over obsessed when I was making this screw when I realized that I've never actually modeled a screw with threads before. So that's something that more than likely I'll be spending a little time practicing off camera. However, in the end, I did put together just a really quick screw, which I'm not entirely proud of, but it'll at least do the job for the purposes of this video. Like I said, we're just doing a Yamaha style part. I'll be printing this out and attempting to put it on any sort of bikes. So let us just grab these loops and bring them down. And this is the type of roundness we have right now. And let me look at this part one more time. And geez, the screw has a hole in it. No mercy. Let's just bring it all the way through. Let's press I to inset this enough to fit. And we can just bring this up to fit. Delete both these faces, and we'll just select the boundaries and then merge the doubles, which they have a little ways away in order to be solved properly. But that does leave us with selecting this to go ahead and sully its bevel, and then we can grab this one and bevel it as well to a varying amount depending on how much roundness we want. Looks like it's crisper on the outside than it is on the inside. And now we can press numpad / and get out and look at what we have. And so this is our over obsessive screw that can now take over for this initial area. So one thing I've noticed with a lot of other high poly subdivision artists is that they'll just lay geometry right on top of each other and it doesn't even matter. But just like that, we've now got to an acceptable result. And with a little bit of time away, that makes me look at this area and realize that maybe I do want to compress that damage to be a little bit smaller, so that way we can have something nice and quadrated going along it. And everything else is actually looking fine. So with that, well, almost everything is fine. Let's try offsetting this area. So maybe it's something like that. And we see that that actually places this lump in this area. So it's almost like we can't even give this area reinforcement in order to get a satisfactory result. Sometimes simplification is the only route left. So while we did introduce a try in that area, we could just solve it by going all the way across to this point. Maybe something like that. And then we look at our solution for this area of transition, and we just want to avoid any knots when they pop up. But I often find that simplicity helps a lot more than complexity whenever it comes to dealing with these complex turns. For example, this area could be brought back down to its bare essentials when we ask ourselves, why does this loop even exist? Why does this loop even exist? Let's remove it and really think about what we want to do here. We're taking a lot away. So we might have to fulfill its destiny by connecting it there, resulting in a slight pinch. So how can we go about mitigating this without compromising the integrity of our cylinder for this area? Well, I've been experimenting with just taking away and just redirecting the safer areas. Let's see how subdivision handles it. Not completely perfect. Let's see if we can crease it up a little bit. And we slide this down and just really inspecting it up close for this finale. Alright, and that'll do it. So this video is already an hour, so with that we can wrap this up, and I'll see you guys next time.